Are you a U.S. military veteran? Are you a guest at Disneyland? You're in luck. You get to participate in the daily flag retreat ceremony at 5 p.m. Why? Because Disneyland is a cathedral of American civil religion, a center for nation building.
Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America.
After the Great Depression and 2 world wars, the small American town and Main Street emerged as mythic images of reassurance for the American imagination of the 1950s. Main Street USA concretizes this myth into 3 dimensions. It is a movie set, a simulacrum, built at 5/8 scale so as to present the past in cute and digestible miniature. This past? A highly idealized, allegedly innocent vision of America between the Civil War and World War I. Opening day featured a silent prayer, followed by a fighter jet display. And what's more American than that? Disneyland's Adventureland fosters what anthropologist Stephen Fjellman describes as cute colonial racism. It presents a mishmash of exotic places for the 1950s American, the Western view of the Third World. Originally named True Life Adventureland, Adventureland is an adaptation of a popular Disney-produced nature series that ran from 1948 to 1960. The iconic Jungle Cruise epitomizes the hyper-reality of Adventureland. Upside-down orange trees perform mangrove drag, and the boats themselves find inspiration in the film The African Queen, starring Katharine Hepburn. The ride even featured an animatronic headhunting tribe until 2021. Literary historian Deborah Phillips links these explorer narratives to colonial displays at World's Fairs. Adventureland positions visitors as adventurers invited to a landscape meant for exploration. The NRA once designed a historical gun display for Disneyland. The Davy Crockett Museum was its home. Frontierland's ode to an obscure historical figure made famous by Disney's 1954 miniseries, Davy Crockett. Through licensing, the show sold $300 million worth of merch in a year, solidifying the marketing capabilities of TV and the buying power of the burgeoning middle class. The show both promoted and bankrolled Disneyland itself, transforming the frontier myth into a walkable space. This myth represents such American tenets as rugged individualism, progress, and during the Cold War, freedom's last stand against the collectivism of the Soviet Union. By the 1970s, indigenous people were removed from the land, ultimately leaving what Victoria Pedersen Lance describes as an indexical absence of nativeness in Disney's depiction of the West. New Orleans greatly influenced Walt Disney, from discovering an electric bird that inspired audio animatronics to the city's parades that birthed Disney's own. While envisioning New Orleans Square, Disney sought to create a Louisiana Purchase section, directly connecting the land to the American frontier myth. New Orleans Square exists somewhere around 1860. However, in this simulacrum, there is no time, and no allusions to slavery, secession, or the Civil War. Only a reference to another American frontier, the Caribbean. This focus on aestheticization and nostalgia, rather than history, typifies Disneyland's ethos, and it continues in nearby Critter Country, formerly Frontierland's Indian Village. Critter Country presents a southern wild inhabited only by animals. It exists in the shadow of Splash Mountain, which is phasing out its references to the racist Song of the South for a Princess and the Frog theme. Did you know that Sleeping Beauty Castle is a weenie? It's a term that Walt Disney coined to describe a structure that attracts and disperses crowds in different directions. The Bavarian-inspired building is the entrance to Fantasyland. Imagineers approached Disneyland as they would a film, even utilizing storyboards to plan the park. But one of the challenges of translating films into 3D environments came from the perceptual variance of visitors. Dark rides with tracks like Snow White remedy this, enforcing a linear experience of space in the order of a narrative. Writers who have seen Snow White synthesize their pre-existing knowledge with the ride's visual iconography for maximum coherence and immersion. This is the hybrid medium of the theme park at its finest. As Cristina Gutierrez Dennehy states, Disney's medievalism serves to affirm the conservative values and gender roles of 1950s white Americans. Tomorrowland, initially intended as a utopian vision of the future, devolved into a retrofuturistic science fiction. To avoid obsolescence, Tomorrowland required constant updates And due to budget restraints, many of these visions of the future were sponsored. Monsanto built a plastic house of the future, stocked with atomic kitchen appliances, perfect for the nuclear family. Richfield Oil Company originally sponsored Autopia, a simulated freeway intended to promote car culture to children. Space, too, played a role in Tomorrowland, as it became America's new frontier during the Cold War. The Disney special Man in Space actually greatly contributed to international interest in space travel. However, by Apollo 11, space travel rides lost their sheen, and as projected innovations didn't come to fruition, the original Tomorrowland existed in 1986, the land pivoted to science fiction. It seems that leaving the future in the hands of corporations ultimately hurt Tomorrowland